Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Shabbos Daf Ayin Zayin. We're on Daf Ayin Vav on our base towards the bottom. We're in the middle of a halacha regarding the shir haitzah of yayin. The Mishnah began with the halacha of hamoitzi yayin. If one carries wine, Rashi says yayin chai, undiluted, pure, concentrated wine. Those days they would take their wines and dilute it with water. So if one carries a bit of wine in Shus Harabim, what is the shir? What is the amount, the measure of yayin, which is regarded to be choshev enough and to make a person chayev chatas upon carrying it into Shus Harabim? Says the Mishnah, hamoitzi yayin kedei mezigas hakois, enough to mix into, to dilute into a kois. Let's begin from the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Tana, we learned in a brayso, which explains the wording in our Mishnah. What is kedei mezigas hakois, to dilute a kois? Says the brayso, Tana kedei mezigas kois yafa, enough of the undiluted wine to be sufficient to dilute, to mix into a kois yafa. Oh my, kois yafa, says the Gemara. What is kois yafa? Kois shel bracha. The brayso is referring to the kois shel bracha, as Rashi says, the kois of brachas hamazon, which the Chachamim, this is mentioned in the Gemara Brachas Daf Nun Aleph, Chachamim instructed us to beautify it. There are various halachis, itur, ituv, hadocha, shtifa, many halachis regarding Brachas HaMazon. So this kois is regarded as a kois yafa, and this is the shir mentioned in our Mishnah. Enough wine to provide, to dilute into this kois shel bracha. Now, how large is the kois shel bracha? And how much of this yayin chai, this undiluted wine, is required in order to yield this kois shel bracha? Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Rabba bar Avua, kois shel bracha tzorech sheyehi boi roiva revis. A kois shel bracha needs to have a quarter of yayin chai, of undiluted wine. Now we know that a kois shel bracha, as the Gemara will say, is a revius halug. So it in itself is a revius, a quarter of a lug, and therefore a quarter of that needs to be yayin chai, undiluted wine, so that when mixed with water, it will yield the full measure of a kois shel bracha, which is a revius halug. So again, the kois shel bracha needs tzarech sheyehei by roiva revius, a quarter of a lug, kedei sheyim zegenu, so that when he dilutes it, he mixes this undiluted wine with water. It will end up being a revius. It will yield a revius haluk. So it's very clear that according to Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Ravua, the size of a kois shel bracha is a revius haluk, and the amount of yayin chai required therein is a quarter of that. So apparently he held that the ratio of diluting was 1 part wine to 3 parts water. Amar Rava, Afanana mitanina. We learned the same concept in our Mishnah, that the kois is meant to end up with an amount, with a volume of a revius. Let's take a look at our Mishnah. Hamoitzi yayin kedei mezigas kois. How much wine, undiluted wine, is required for itzah? Enough to dilute, to mix into a kois. V'tani Allah. And we have the brayso which tells us kedei mezigas kois yafa, to mix into a kois yafa, which is the kois shel bracha. Now, how large is this kois? Uktani seifa. Let's take a look at the seifa of our Mishnah. What does it say? Ushar kalamashkim revius. All other drinkables, all the liquids which are meant to be drunk, have a shear of revius. Apparently, says Rava, what is the shear of the yayin? The yayin which will be diluted. Apparently, it's a shear of revius, equal to the other mashkin. A shear of revius is required to be considered a shear chashav ha'itzah. So if the Mishnah begins by telling us that one who is moitzi yayin chai, undiluted wine, that too it involves a liability, provided he has enough to mix into the kois. Apparently, says Rava, we're meant to yield a revius. The reason why yayin chai is chayiv, even on a smaller measure, on a smaller amount, because once mixed in and diluted with water, it too will yield a yayin mazak, a diluted wine, which has the measure, the amount, the quantity of a revius. Apparently, says Rava, the shear of a kosher bracha needs to be a revius, and therefore when one is moitzi, a quarter of that, he is chayv because it can yield, it can result in a revius, which is the proper shear of mashke. So this is one concept we see from our Mishnah, that the total is meant to be a revius. Now, how do we know that the yain chai contained therein will be a quarter? Says the Gemara, it's based on another premise. V'Rava l'tamei. Rava follows his opinion, the Amar Rava. The proper measure, the proper proportion, the ratio for mixing wine is as follows. Kol chamra de loydori. Any wine, de loydori al chad tlas mayo. Any wine which is not strong enough that enables us to pour, the loydori al chad, that doesn't enable us to pour on one portion of the wine, tlas maya, 3 portions of water. So it's not able to sustain this mix. It can't be mixed using this formula of 1 wine versus 3 water. Lav chamru. Apparently, he's not wine. He's not strong enough wine. So Rava maintains this is the proper formula to mixing wine. We're meant to dilute 1 portion of wine versus 3 portions of water. And therefore, says Rava, it makes sense that in our Mishnah, when he is moitzi, a roiva revis, a quarter of a revius of a lug, a quarter of a revius halug of pure wine, that is considered to be a shir chashav ha'itza, because when he adds the water to this quarter, he will end up having a shir of a revius which is considered to be the proper shir for mashkin on Shabbos. So once again, Rava's statement, Rava's raya from the Mishnah, encompasses 2 things. Number 1, he says from the Mishnah we see that we're supposed to end up with a revius, because the shir of mashkin for Yitzhak Shabbos, generally speaking, is a shir revius. And therefore that explains why we need to have a quarter of that to be pure wine. And that is what the Mishnah is saying, Hamoitzi yayin kedei mizigas hakois. It is a quarter of that, in accordance with the statement of Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Bravua. We need a quarter of the revius to be pure wine, because Rav is following his formula. We're meant to dilute pure wine using the ratio of 1 versus 3. So if we have a quarter of pure wine and we add 3 quarters, we add 3 portions of water to that, we will end up with a revius, which is the proper amount for a Yitzhak Shabbos. So Rav is basing his whole approach on the fact that we're meant to yield a shir of revius. So since this bit of pure wine can theoretically yield us a total amount of a revius of diluted wine, therefore we regard this yain chai, this small portion of pure wine, to be significant enough, and he's chai on the yitzah of that wine. Omar Abaye, stay true as v'davar. I have 2 arguments here against your assertion. Chad, number 1, you have this formula of diluting 1 portion wine with 3 portions of water. It's not so. This is not we learned in the Mishnah. V'hamazik, diluted wine. The Mishnah there is discussing the halachas of dam nida. The dam nida is meant to contain a certain color, shade of redness. Actually, several shades of redness are suitable for dam nida. And the Mishnah gives us an example of a shade of redness which is contained in diluted wine. V'hamazik, what exactly? How do you make this? Which type of diluted wine are we referring to? Says the Mishnah, Shnei chalkei mayim v'echad yain. 2 portions of water mixed in with 1 portion of wine. Men hayayin ashiroini, from this wine coming from Shorim. So you see clearly in the Mishnah that the proper formula of diluting wine is not 1 per 3, but rather 1 per 2. V'oi, it says Abai, another argument I have against you. Mayim v'kadu mitzdarfen. How can we have water? You can have the mayim still sitting in the kad, still sitting in the pitcher, and you're going to combine it with this raw wine? Meaning, if the reason why, according to you, according to Rav, his liable is chayev for being mighty, this small measure of yain chay, of undiluted wine, is because it can be mixed in with the water, can be diluted with 3 portions of water, and it will yield a revius, which is the shear of mashkin, if that is the reason why he's chayiv, it's hard to understand that, says Abai. He didn't actually dilute it yet. He didn't mix it with the water yet. The water is still sitting in his home. He's merely being mitzi, this bit of yain, of undiluted wine. How can you relate the two things? How can you attribute chashiva's significance to this pure wine due to the fact that it can be mixed in with the water and yield the result of mashkin, of revius? There's no water here. So apparently, Abaye says, it has nothing to do one with the other. It's not because this yayin chai, this raw wine, it can or will yield a sheer, a total amount of revius. That is why it is chashav. That's not so. Because, as I say, the proper formula, the proper proportion to be used when diluting is not 1 portion wine versus 3 portion of water. Rather, it's 1 per 2. So even if this undiluted wine cannot even yield a sheer revius, we have a quarter of a revius here, and even after diluting it, it will not result in a revius. It's irrelevant. The reason why he's chayiv on this bit of wine is not because it can yield a revius, but rather because this amount of wine is choshev. Just like the other shiurim mentioned in the Mishnah of the dvash, a little bit of dvash to place on a sore, etc. It's nothing to do with revius. We know that the Chachamim attributed chashiva's significance to certain amounts of substances, certain amounts of materials, based on their significance. Perhaps wine is very chashiv, doesn't need a revius to be regarded as important enough. So even a small amount of wine, even this small amount of yain chai, is considered to be a shear for Hitzah. So Rabbi disagrees with Rabbi on 2 accounts. Number 1, your formula is wrong. The Mishnah tells us the proper formula to dilute wine is 1 portion wine versus 2 portions of water. Number 2, the basis, the reason for the chiyuv here is not because it can yield, it can result in an end product of a revius, but rather because this portion of yain chai is significant chashav on its own. Now Rabbi responded to the 2 arguments. Amalei Rabbi, hodeka amris shnei chelkei mayim vechad yain men hayayin hashironi. So this Mishnah that you quoted, which seems to tell us that this yain hashironi is meant to be mixed, 1 portion wine with 2 portions of water. Says Rava, yeah, yain hashironi lechud. That is specific to this particular brand of wine, yain hashironi. The Rafi, because it's a weaker variety of wine, doesn't have the ability to be mixed like ordinary, strong, powerful, fully concentrated wine, which will be mixed according to my formula. So this weak wine will only be mixed with a ratio of 1 for 2. Inami, alternatively, that Mishnah is not discussing drinking wine. It's not discussing diluting the wine for the taste value. Rather, mishum chizusa, for the appearance value, for the color value. We're trying to give us a formula. Mishnah is presenting us a formula to measure up the dam nida, the redness of the blood of the nida, and indeed the proper color shade of redness is meant to equal the yain which was diluted in this manner. So that's specific to color shades of red, nothing to do with diluting for the purpose of drinking. But when diluted for drinking purposes, in that case, we need more water. It needs to be 1 portion of wine for every 3 portions of water. So that's a response to his first argument. The Mishnah is no right on 2 accounts, on 2 reasons. Number 2, the second argument that you had with the Ka'amris, Mayim bekadum mitztarfen. How could the water still sitting in the pitcher combine with this undiluted wine to create a shear? Says Rava, you're right. We didn't actually dilute it yet. However, le'inyan Shabbos, when it comes to the shiurim of a yitzah of Shabbos, midi dichashabina. What is the rule of thumb? We need something which is chashav, which is significant. V'hanami. HaChashiv. Here too, this bit of yayin chai, this quarter of revius, that can be turned into a revius after diluting it, that is regarded as a davar chashiv, because it is fit to combine it, to dilute it with water, and to yield this shear of a revius, which is a proper measure, attributed to liquids, to mashkin. As the Mishnah says, v'chol mashkin, sharkal mashkin b'revius. So we work with the premise that mashkin needs a revius. This yayin chai, since it can result, it can bring about, it can produce a revius of diluted wine. Therefore, this mayim in itself, even before diluting, already has a shir chashiv. It has the potential to produce yayin mazuk, diluted wine, properly mixed wine, which has a shir revius. So in summary, we learned the halacha. If one is moitzi yayin chai, what is the shir? A roiva revius, a quarter of a revius halug. According to Rava, the reason is because this bit of wine is right to produce with it a revius. As Rava follows his formula that we're meant to dilute one portion of wine with 3 portions of water, so this quarter will end up being a full revius. According to Abaye, the reason why the moitzi yayin chai is chayiv, it's unrelated to the fact that it can produce a larger amount of a revius, because according to Abaye, it's not even going to do that. Abaye maintains the proper formula for diluting is 2 portions of water mixed with 1 portion of wine. Rather, Abaye says this small amount of yayin chai is considered to be a shir chashav on its own, irrelevant, unconnected with the fact that it can be diluted to produce a larger amount. Rather, this in itself is chashav, and is chayiv on its eitzah. Continues the Gemara. Tana, we learned in the Brayso. So we learned that the shir of yayin is a roiver revius. What about if one would carry out dry wine, congealed wine? Yavesh bekazayis. If one carries wine which is yavesh, which is already congealed, there we require a shir of a kazayis, the volume of an olive. Let's take a look at Rashi. Rashi is the second wide line, at the beginning of the word bekazayis. Says Rashi, yavesh yain korish bekazayis. The miikara have a bei revius. How do we get to kazayis? Says Rashi, because when we have a solid of a kazayis, a liquid which congealed, so initially it had the volume of a revius. So the kazayis of congealed wine is synonymous, is equivalent with the revius of liquefied wine. Says Rashi Akasha, 1 second. Whoever needed a revius of wine, we never discussed that share by wine, we needed a quarter revius. Says Rashi, ubekarish revius shlema beinan. In this case, we require a kazayis, which is synonymous with a full revius. Why? Why do we need a full revius of wine? Because the lav bar meziga, because congealed wine doesn't have the ability to be mixed, to be diluted. Therefore, in this case, we need a full revius. So Rashi learning the Gemara is speaking about pure wine, undiluted wine, yayin chai. We need a kazayis of yayin chai, which is equivalent to revius. In this case, we can't suffice with less because it can't be diluted. So we need the full amount of revius, and equivalent in yavish would be a kazayis. Back to the Gemara, says the Gemara, Divir Rav Nasan. This is the Shita of Rav Nasan, who equates a revius of liquid with a kazayis of solid. Rav Yosef, Rav Nasan, this opinion of Rav Nasan, who equates the 2 things, with regard to the shir ha'otzah of yayin on Shabbos. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and we find a similar shita stated by Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda regarding a different context. Amru davar echad, they both are aligned with each other. They're both based on the same premise. Rav Nasan hadam maran, as we just said, with regard to wine by Shabbos. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, the Sunday as we learned in the Brayso. Rav Yehuda Omer, Shisha dvarim, I have 6 things, mikulei beishamai, and mechumer beisil, that are expressions of a leniency expressed by beishamai, and a chumrah by beisil, which is not your typical machlekes. Here we have 6 things where beishamai were the ones actually that were mekel, and beisil were machmer. What is one example? Dam nevela, the blood of a nevela. Nevela is a dead animal. We know that the bus of the flesh of a nevela is matame. What about the dam of nevela? Should we give it, should we regard it in the same status as the flesh, and it will also be metame or not? What about machlekes? Bishamai metar, they say no, dam is not like basar, and it's not metame. Or bishil metame, they say yes, dam is like basar, and just as the basar and avela metame, the dam is also metame. Now, how much dam do we need? We know that basar of an avela, in order to be metame, needs to be a kazayis. What about the dam? Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, even Beisil Umertam the Dam, Loi Timu. You know when they apply Tumah? Ela bedam sheyesh berevius. If the dam contained the volume of a revius haluk. Why? Hoyel, since if yochel likroish v'lamid al kazais, since it can congeal and turn into kazais, which is the shear of the basar nevel to be matamic. Therefore, the dam as well, if it has a revius, it is the same volume, is equated to the kazayas of the yavesh, and therefore it's matamic. So the Gemara tells us that Rav Nassan, with regard to wine of Shabbos, who equates the Gezayis to the Revius, and Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda, who equates them with regard to Dam Nevela, are both based on the same premise, that a Gezayis equals a Revius, and a Revius equals a Gezayis. Perhaps we can differentiate the two contexts. Why? Why does Rav Nassan, by us, by Shabbos, by wine, equate the two? He says, well, if the shear of yain is revius, so when it congeals, we need a kazayis. Adkan loika amar Rav Nassan hacha the boy revius, because the boy revius, because in order to make a kazayis, we need a revius. A revius of wine produces a kazayis of dried wine. Ella beyayin the kolish. That is only by wine, where the wine it's a thinner type of liquid compared to blood. So once again, over here, Ad kan like a glamour of Nasan Hacha, the boy revius, Ella beyayin the kolish. This wine, which is kolish, is thin, has thinner consistency. It needs a revius to produce a kazayis. Less than that wouldn't produce a kazayis, and therefore the two things are equated. If a revius is the shear of yain for itzah, then the shear of kazayis is the shear by yain yovish. Aval bedam de samach, but by blood, which is a thicker consistency. Kazayis leiboy revius. In order to create a kazayis of congealed blood, you don't need a revius. Even less than a revius would already produce a kazayis, because the dam is thicker. It's of a thicker consistency. You don't need that much dam to create a dry kazayis. Therefore, perhaps Rav Nassan would disagree. He would hold that when it comes to dam, how much dam do you need to be metame? Well, if we're working with a benchmark of a kazayis basar, so how much dam would equate that? How much volume of blood would equate the kazayis of dry blood? Perhaps over there, we don't need that much. We don't need a revius, even less than a revius. Would already produce if it congeals, would result in a kazayis of dam. So you don't need that much. Even less than a revius is sufficient to be tummy. Inami, or alternatively, you could say in the reverse as well. Ad kan like Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Hasam. When does Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda say over there the kazayis sagile revius, that in order to produce a kazayis, it is enough to use a revius, meaning that once you have a revius of the dam, that is sufficient to produce the dry block of a kazayis of dam, and therefore a revius is sufficient to be tamei. That's only with regard to blood, which is thicker, which is of a thicker consistency, and therefore over there a kazayis is sagile revius. In order to produce a kazayis, it is enough, it is sufficient to use a revius of dam. Ela bedam de samach, because it's thicker. So once again, over there, Reish Vida says, Hasam, the kazayis sagil revius. In order to produce a kazayis, it is sufficient to use a revius. Ela, it's only by dam das bedam de samach. Aval yain de kolish. But wine which is of a thinner consistency, kazayis have a yoisim revius. Once we have a kazayis of congealed wine, you know how much wine is in there? More than a revius. Because wine is a thinner thing. It's a thinner liquid. In order to produce a kazayis of congealed wine, he requires more than a revius. And since the benchmark, the shear that we're working with by wine of Eitzah Shabbos is a revius. So therefore, we don't need so much. We don't need a kazayis of congealed wine, which really contains within it more than a revius. Therefore, concludes the Gemara, v'chi mapik, if he carries out pachas mikazayis, even less than a kazayis, which already contains a revius of wine, he will be chayiv. Therefore, Abai says, We cannot compare the two topics of wine and blood. Perhaps there's room to differentiate based on their varied consistencies. So in summary, we learned to halacha that yain lach for Yitzhak Shabbos needs a shir of revius. As Rashi explains, provided that it's not, we're not able to dilute it. So based on that benchmark, Rav Nassan tells us that yain yavish needs a kazais because it's equal in volume to a revius of wine. So once again, if we have wine, which is something that's able to be mixed in and dilute, we don't need a revius. But here that we have a dry wine, where in this lav bar mezika, as Rashi says, we can't dilute it. Therefore, we work with the concept, with the premise, that even yain chai, raw wine, needs a revius, and its equivalent in yavish, in congealed wine, is a kazais. With regard to dam nevela, would we still say, is me'tame? We're working with a shear, a benchmark of a kazais, which is the shear of basar nevela. Rabbi Yisrael tells us, when it comes to dam, a revius is required, which equals in volume the shear of kazais. Abai differentiates, he says, you can't compare wine, which is of a thinner consistency, to blood, which is a thicker type of liquid. Continues the Gemara, Chalav Kedei Gemia. The Mishnah gave us the shear, the amount for milk. Chalav regarding Haitza'as Shabbos Kedei Gemia, the amount of a swallow. Ibailu says, well, we had a question. How are we meant to spell the word Gemia? With an aleph or with an ayin? Since you know the aleph and the ayin are very close in sound, what is the proper spelling? Kedei Gemia with an aleph or Kedei Gemia with an ayin? Amar Nachmar Yitzchak, I'll bring a raya from a pasuk. Eliezer tells Rivka, Hagmi'ini na matmai mikadech, please give me to drink a little water from your pitcher. So we see Hagmi'ini, give me to drink, contains the aleph. And here too, Gmiya is meant to be spelled with an aleph. The Gemara will list another 3 examples of uncertainty of whether we're meant to spell with an aleph or an ayin. Iboilu, says the Gemara, another question. Gar inin? Or gar inin? Referring back to the Mishnah Daf Ayin Vav, which told us that the pits are not meant to be included in the shear of the Kruger Geras, the shear of the dry fig, when it comes to Haitza'as Shabbos. So are we meant to spell the gar inin with an aleph or with an ayin? Amar Rava bar Ula, bring a right from the pasuk, v'nigra merkecha, meant to deduct it from the value. The gar inin, these pits are expelled, are deducted, are tossed away from within the food. So this is the same root word as v'nigra, and therefore we see that it's spelled with an ayin. Here to gar inin is with an ayin. We have another question. This is regarding coals which have been partially extinguished. So we refer to them as gecholim oimimois. Is it with an aleph or an ayin? Amar Nachem Amar Yitzchak bar Ardimi arozim loy im amamuhu began elikim. The pasuk says that the cedars arozim loy amamu have not darkened, have not extinguished the beauty. Began elikim. So we see that extinguishing is spelled with an ayin. Here too, oimimois is meant to be spelled with an ayin. Iboilu, finally, another shaila, ma'amtzin, tananoi ma'amtzin, referring to the mission later in Shabbos. A person that's dying, we're not meant to close his eyes. And the mission uses the word ma'amtzin. Is it with an aleph or with an ayin? Amar Abchir bar Abba Amar Yochanan, v'oisem einav mirois b'ra. The pasuk describes a person who's commendable on account of the fact that he's oisem einav. He diverts his eye, he averts his eyes from seeing bad, seeing something he's not meant to look at. So we see that closing the eyes is described as oitzem with an ayin. Here too, ma'amtzin of the mace is meant to be spelled as a word with the letter ayin, which denotes closing of the eyes. Tanarab Bana will learn to the Bryce. Hamoitzi cholav shabahema, one who carries out animal milk. Kedei gmiya, the shear there is kedei gmiya, the amount of a swallow. Cholav shal isha, milk of a woman. V'loy shel beitza, or the white of an egg. What is the shear over there? Kedei litein b'meshifa shel kilar, in order to place into the salve, the ointment they would put on the eye. Kilar, what is the amount of the ointment itself? Kedei lashav b'mayim, to rub with water and be placed in both eyes. Boy Rab Ashi, kedei shifa, an amount of ointment which will be placed in the eyes themselves, or do you need to add a bit, which will get stuck on the achida, on the fingers? So you need enough to hold on to them, and also to fill the eyes. So is it kedei shifa, the amount necessary for the eyes themselves, or do you need to add a bit, kedei achiza, in order to hold on to it? Achiza vishifa, and then place it in the eyes. Teku, this is unresolved. Tavash, what is the amount of honey, which is chayav on Shabbos kedei litin al kosses, the amount which is sufficient to be placed on the sore of an animal. Tana, we learned in the Brayse, kedei litin al pikosses, to be placed on the mouth of the sore. But Rav Ashi, what does this mean? Al kosses, when we say on the sore, apuma de kula kosses, it means on the entire makkah, on the entire wound. From the Brayse says pikosses, it means the entire makkah. Oidilma, perhaps, is very limited. Amursha kama de kosses, only on the top corner of the top point of the sore, la fuki, to exclude hujrana around it, around that top point. The light, that's not included in our share. We don't need the honey to be sufficient for that. Teku, unresolved. Amar Yehuda Amarav, Kol mashabara hakadosh baruch hu ba'olami, everything that Hashem created in His world, lo yibara davar echad levatola. He had not created even one thing needlessly. Everything has a point. Everything has a purpose. Everything fits into this intricate system and puzzle that Hashem had in mind for this world. Explains the Gemara some examples. Bara shavlul, Hashem created a slug. L'kasis, meant to be used as a cure for a kasis, for a sore. Bara zvuv, Hashem created a zvuv, a fly litzira, to be used as a cure if one gets bitten by a hornet. Yitush, a mosquito l'nachash, to cure a snake bite. But nachash, a snake, was created as a cure l'chafafis, as a cure for, Rashi says, a min shchin, certain type of boil. Usamamis, Hashem created a samamis, which is a spider. Li'akrav, to serve as a cure for someone who's stung by a scorpion. Says the Gemara, Hechi avidli, how exactly is one to employ the remedy of the snake for the boil, for the chafafis? Says the Gemara as follows: Ma'isi chada uchma, he takes one black snake, v'chada chivra, and a white one, v'shalkelu, he cooks them with shaifile, and then smears it on the boil, and this is the way he remedies the boils. Tana Rabban, we learned in the Brayse, Chamisha emo yisein. There are 5 examples of fear that Hashem created in this world. Emas chalash al gibor. There are 5 examples of fear, the pachad, the ema, that a chalash is something weaker. A weaker creature casts upon the gibor, the more stronger, the superior animal. Says there are 5 examples. Number 1, emas mafgia alari, the fear of this small mafgia creature who casts his fear on the more mighty lion. Farshim explained he's a small creature, and when he yells, the screeching sound scares the lion. He runs away for fear that this mafgia, this creature, will jump on his head, and he has the ability to actually break through into his brain. So the Ari runs away from the mafgia, even though he's much smaller in size. This is one example. Number 2, emas yitush al apil, the fear of a mosquito upon the elephant, for fear that he might run up his trunk and hurt him and harm him. Emas sumamis ala akrav, the fear of the spider on the scorpion. He's afraid of him for fear that he might go through his ear and harm him. Emas nunis ala nesher, the snunis creature casts his fear on the mighty eagle, for fear that he might embed himself underneath his wings and prevent him from spreading his wings and flying. Emas kilvis al vyasan, the small creature, casts his fear on this mighty levyasan fish, for similar fear that he shouldn't go into his ear and harm him. Omar Vido Marav Maikrov, where do we find this concept in a pasuk? Hamavlig shoyd al uz, Hashem triumphs the shoyd, the robbed one, the weaker one. He casts his fear on the uz, on the more mighty and strong one. Continues the Gemara, Rab Zera, Ashkach Rab Yehuda. Rab Zera encountered, he found Rab Yehuda, the Gehavakoya Pischa de Bechamor. He was by the doorway, the opening of his father-in-law's home. V'chazen, he noticed that Rab Yehuda was in a good mood. V'chazi dava b'dicha daite. He was in a good mood. V'boy minei, called Chalali de Alma. If you would ask him anything within the contempt, within the world, anything that is related to the world, Hava Amalei, he would respond to him and explain to him. So he took full advantage of the good moment. Amalei, and he began to pepper him with many questions. Number one, he says, my time, my easy maskim beresha. Why do we find that in the herd, the goats actually are the ones that go forward? V'hodar imri, I'm following them on the sheep. Amalei, because they are reminiscent of the creation of the world, the order of the Bria Soilam. Just as the world was created in this manner, the Bereishah HaSheicha first came dark. It says, Vayi Erev, V'hodar Nohira, and then came light, Vayi Erev, and then Vayi Boker. So these animals follow the same sequence. First comes dark, and then comes light. As the Farshim point out, this indeed is the order of the world. First comes darkness, and then comes light. Klal Yisrael's mission, destiny in the world is to take this dark world, which covers up the beauty and the light of Hashem, and turn it into light, into the light of Torah and light of mitzvah. So first comes dark, but our mission is to transform that darkness into light. He continued asking him, "My time mahani mechasyan? Why are the sheep covered over? They have this tail covering them. V'hani megalyan, whereas the goats don't have that phenomenon. They're not covered with a tail. Hani the machsinim minay." So he responded, these sheep, which are meant to cover us, we use their shear, their wool, a shear of wool, to cover ourselves with them. Mechasyan, they too are covered. They're covered with their tail, which is indicative of this phenomenon. But the goats, which we don't use their shear generally to cover ourselves with their hair, therefore they too are uncovered. Megalion, they're uncovered. He continued asking him, "My time of gamla, why a camel? Zuter gnufse, his tail is small, is short. Mishum de achal kisi. It's because he eats thorns, so he roams around the thorns. Hashem made his tail short. It doesn't get entangled in the thorns. My time a tura, aricha gnufse. Why a tura, a ox? His gnufse, his tail is aricha, is long. Mishum de dair ba'agmi, because he resides in these swamps. Uboyle karkushi baki, he needs to chase away the flies. He uses his tail to do that. My time a karna, the kamtza rikicha. Why is the karen, the horns of a kamtza, of a locust, why is it soft and flexible? The answer is the daira bechilfi, because it resides in the chilfi. Rashi says the arava, the willows, and the kasha. If his horns will be stiff and inflexible, nadya, it would move out of place. It would get uprooted by the when it bangs into the eitzim, to the trees of misavra, and it will result in the locust turning blind. Damar Shmuel, as Shmuel told us, that the locust's eyesight is very dependent, very connected, related with its horns. Hayman de boy de lisme lekamtza. If one wishes to blind a locust, lishlofinu lekarne, he should pull out its horns. My time, why? High timra de tarnagota. Why do we find that the eyelid, the lower eyelid of the tarnagota, of this chicken or this rooster, perhaps all chickens, madli le'ila. So the lower lid actually overlaps upward, which Rashi says is different in contrast to other animals whose upper lid is the one that actually overlaps. So why by the tarnagota do we find it to be the reverse? So he told him, very simple, the diary adapi, because generally he resides adapi on the boards, on the beams, and there is a smoke present there. It's a domesticated creature, and he lives up on the boards, and the smoke rises up. The ayel kitra misavra. If the smoke would enter his eyes, he would get blinded. Therefore, Hashem made that the lower lid should overlap and block the smoke from entering. He continued asking him the precise definition, the root of various Aramaic words. As Mashar explains, very often the Aramaic words are rooted in Lashon HaKodesh. So he asked him regarding 22 different words in Aramaic. Number one, dasha. Dasha is a doorway. What is the meaning, what is the root of the word dasha? So he told him derech sham. It's a Rashi Tevis, an acronym, a combination of two words, derech sham. That way, that is the way to enter the home or the building. Darga Darga is a ladder used to go up on the roof. Derech gag, that's the way up to the roof. Mat kulita. Rashi explains this to referring to a dip, something which we dip food into. So what is the word? What is that word coming from? Masai tichlada. It's a combination of these three words. One who sees this dip, he takes a look and he says, Masai tichlada, when will this thing be consumed? Rashi explains the dip takes a while for it to be consumed. So that is the meaning of mat kulisa. Besa. How does the word besa come into being? Boy, ve'eseba, come, and I will sit there. Bei bikta, this is a narrow hut. Bei aksa, it's a small, narrow home. So besa is a regular home, biksa is a small home. Kufsa is a mortar. Kuf v'tiv, turn it upside down, v'tiv, and sit down on it. Livni, bricks used to build. Livnei vani, a structure built using bricks. It lasts, it endures for the generations to come. Livnei vani, children. Hutza, this is a temporary partition made from flimsy material, kaitzim, lulavim, thorns, or some type of flimsy branches. Why is it called hutza? Chatzitza. It's merely a partition. It's not something enduring, not something lasting. Chatzva, this is something used to draw from the river. Shechoitziv mayim and nar. One uses it to mine water from the rivers. That's the word chatzva. Kuza is a small earthenware kli. Kazeh, it's merely a little thing. Rashi says, for instance, when one wishes to get some wine from his friend, he says, fill it up, a little wine, give me a little wine as a present. It's just kazeh, it's just a little bit here. It's just this little container. Shutisa. Shutisa is referring to a branch of myrtle, of hadas, which is used to dance with it in front of the kala. So why was it called shutisa? Shetusa. It's foolish. One presents himself in a foolish manner when he dances in this manner in front of the kala. Mashichla was a large wash basin. Where does that word come from? Mashikula. All are meant to wash with it is something which washes everybody. Mashchilta, which was a smaller, more elegant looking wash basin. Where does it get its term from? Mashikalta. It's meant to wash the kala. Somebody important, like a kala. Asita, this is a mortar. Where does it get its word from? Chasirta, it's missing. Looks like it was hollowed out. It's missing its content. Buchna, that is the pestle thing that we crush the things in the mortar. Where does the word buchna come from? Boy, va'akena, come, and I will crush it. Levusha, this is an overcoat. Loi busha, it removes shame and embarrassment. Rashi explains it covers over the unpleasant looking torn and clothing that are underneath it. So this levusha removes embarrassment. Glima, this is a coat, a overcoat which is unformed. It doesn't have limbs in it. It's just a smooth looking overcoat. Shenasa kegelem or kegoylem. He looks like a goylem. Rashi says means he looks like he's unformed without any limbs, because this garment covers him over and hides all his limbs. Finally, gulsa, this is some sort of fine robe. Gali ve'esev. The word gulsa is a combination of the words gali. It means that he is megala himself. He lifts up the bottom so it doesn't get dirty. He lifts it up and reveals part of himself ve'esev, and I will sit down. Puria, referring to a bed, it comes from the word sheparna v'rabban aleh, because the people they increase and they multiply on the bed through tashmish. So that is the word puria. Burzinka, referring to an emptied well. Burzen naki. It's a clean well. It was dried of its water, and it contains no more water. So again, burzinka is referencing burzen naki. It's clean of any water. Finally, sudra, that's a turban worn by Talmid Chachamim. Soid Hashem Lireyav. It's a short version of the pasuk of Soid Hashem Lireyav, the secret Hashem endowed to his ones who fear him. That is the root of the word sudra. The last item on the list, apadna, a palace of a king. Apis chadein, it is a short version of apis chadein. To this, by this doorway of the palace, all come. They come to serve the king, to settle their disputes. Continues the Gemara, Tanar Rabbanan, we learned in the Bryce. Shloisha, there are three creatures which have an interesting phenomenon. Kol Zaman Shemas Kidin. The older they get, Moisif and Gvura, they get stronger and stronger. Beluin, what are these three things? Dog, a fish, Vanachash, a snake, V'chazir, and a swine. Continues the Gemara. The Mishnah gave us the shear of Shemen. How much oil is sufficient for Hoitzah Shabbos? Shemen Kedei Losach Ever Cotton, to anoint with it a small limb. What does that mean, a small Ever? Amri Dver of Yanai, Shemen, how much oil? Kedei Losach Ever Cotton, enough to anoint a small limb, the small pinky toe, Shal Cotton Ben Yaimai, of a small child, a day-old baby. So according to Rabbi Yanai, the word cotton, cotton contains two meanings. The small limb, and Rashi says it's not even the entire pinky, it's one portion of the pinky toe. So cotton is referring to the small limb, and cotton is also referring to the small child, a one-day-old child. Very little oil. Shemen, how much oil could they losach? Aver cotton, to anoint a small aver. V'katan ben yoimah, and also a katan, a one-day-old child. What does this mean? My love. Apparently, the Bryce here is giving us two guidelines. Either the word katan refers to the aver katan. My love, aver katan, the small aver, the pinky toe of the gadol of an adult. So that's the first option. Either we measure according to the size, the amount of oil needed to anoint an aver katan. So the word katan is referring to the aver, but this aver belongs to a gadol. Alternatively, the Brisa tells us, "V'aver gadol shall katan ben yaimah." Alternatively, the word katan can indeed be referring to a one-day-old baby. But in that case, we need enough to anoint aver gadol, a large limb. According to Netziv, this means his thigh. So we need to anoint a aver gadol of a katan ben yaimah. So the Brisa seems to imply that the word katan has only one meaning, either referring to an aver katan of a gadol, or a person who's a katan, but in that case we need enough to anoint the large aver. Well, we can't have a double meaning in the word katan, referring to aver katan of a katan min yomai, like Rav Yanai suggests. Says the Gemara, Amrilach Rav Yanai. So the Chachamim, Beis Medrash Rav Yanai says no. Loi, you're not interpreting the Brisa properly. This is the way we're meant to interpret the Brisa. This is what it means to say. Shemen, how much oil? They losach aver cotton shall cotton ben yoimai. Indeed, the Brisa is containing both meanings, both applications with the word the cotton, the aver cotton, and the cotton ben yoimai. Says more lemi perhaps there's actually machlekes tanoi. Shemen kedei losach aver cotton, the cotton ben yoimai, divrei Rab Shimon Elazar. Rab Nasan Aimer kedei losach aver cotton. So these words seem a bit cryptic. The Gemara will explain. My love, apparently this is the meaning of the machlekes. This is how we're meant to present our machlekes. Reb Shimon Elazar Savar, he holds aver cotton shall cotton. He holds, in accordance to Rav Yanai, that the cotton here has a double meaning, is applied to the aver and to the person, and aver cotton of the cotton ben yoimai. Rav Nasan Savar, no, it's one or the other. Aver cotton, the gadol. Either the cotton is a reference to the aver of a large person, of an adult, or alternatively, aver gadol, the cotton, or an aver gadol of a cotton. So the cotton here either means the person or the aver, but it can mean both together. Now the Farshim explained that how can we equate these two things? We say the aver cotton of a gadol is equal to the amount of the aver gadol of a cotton, because the young baby, on account of his soft and moist skin, doesn't need so much oil to anoint him, and therefore the amount needed for his large aver equals in volume the amount needed for the adult, for the gadol, by his small aver. So indeed, this is the shita of Rav Nasan. The word cotton either means the aver cotton of the adult, or the person who's a cotton, the cotton ben yoimai. In that case, we need enough to anoint the aver gadol. Says the Gemara, Aval aver cotton shall cotton ben yoimai lie. But certainly, it can't have that double meaning. We can't apply it to the person as well as to the aver. So indeed, this is the machlekes. Rav Nasan says that We need more than just the Ever Katan, Shal Katan, and Yomi, and Shemar Lazar, who indeed holds this is sufficient in accordance to Rav Yanai. Says the Gemara, Loi, the Kuli Alma, Ever Katan, the Katan, and Yomi, Loi. All agree, this small amount for Ever Katan, Shal Katan, and Yomi is not sufficient. Unless Rav Yanai, we do not agree to Rav Yanai. And indeed, this is the way we went to present the Machlekes. Rav Shemar Lazar Savar, he holds that there are one of two ways to measure the volume of the oil. Ever Katan, the Gadol, the amount needed to anoint a small limb of a Gadol, Ve'ever Gadol, the Katan and Yomi, and the amount needed to anoint a large Ever of a one-day-old baby, Kiata Deninu, they're equal and the same. So you have two ways of measuring. Rav Nosson Savar, no, Ever Katan, the Gadol in, we can measure using the Ever Katan of the Gadol, but not the other way, not Ever Gadol, the Katan and Yomi Loi. But that cannot be used. So according to Rav Shimon Lazar, both measures are equal. According to Rav Nosson, it's not. But it seems that all agree that the word Katan has only one meaning, either the Ever or the person. It certainly cannot mean the Ever Katan of the Katan and Yomi. So you have two ways to interpret Rav Shimon Lazar. Either Rav Shimon Lazar agrees with Rav Yanai, or he's against Rav Yanai. Says in my Havila, indeed, what is the conclusion? Tashma, come and listen. The Sanya. Rav Shimon Lazar Omer, Shemen, Kedei Lasach, Ever Katan, Shal Katan and Yomi. So very clearly, Rav Shimon Lazar himself states his opinion. I hold enough oil that is sufficient to anoint Ever Katan of a Katan. That is a Shir Vaitzah. And indeed, he agrees with Rav Yanai. So Rav Shimon Lazar concurs with Rav Yanai that the amount of oil is for Ever Katan of a Katan al Yomi. And Rav Nosson is the one who disagrees. So in conclusion, the Mishnah tells us enough oil to anoint an Ever Katan is sufficient for Yitzhak Shabbos. What is an Ever Katan? According to Shimon Lazar and according to Rav Yanai, the word Katan has a double meaning. It's an Ever Katan of a Katan ben Yomi. According to Rav Nosson, the word Katan can be applied either to the Ever, an Ever Katan of an adult, or alternatively to a one-day-old baby, the Ever Gadol of a Katan ben Yomi. Okay, time for a brief Chazara on today's daf. We began with the halacha of Amoitzi Yayin. One carries pure, undiluted wine. The shear is a quarter of a revius halog, according to Rabbi, because it is suitable to be mixed with water and to yield the amount of a revius halog. Because one is meant to dilute one portion wine with 3 portions of water, according to Abaye. The diluting process takes place 1 portion wine with 2 portions of water. The reason why a quarter of a revius halog is sufficient for Yitzhak Shabbos is simply because this is regarded as a shir chashav, a significant amount, and it's sufficient for Yitzhak Shabbos. The Gemara told us that if one carries out a congealed wine, Rav Nosson tells us the shir is a kazayis, because that equates the liquid amount of revius. The Gemara equated that to dam nevela, where the shir is kazayis, and therefore when it is liquid, we need a revius, according to Reis Yehuda. Abaye differentiated between the two because yain is a thinner consistency versus dam, which is of a thicker consistency. The Gemara proceeded with spelling discussion of ayin and aleph. Everything Hashem created in the world was for a purpose. The Gemara told us that there are different creatures who cast their fear even on those that are stronger and mightier than them. The Gemara told us different reasons why we find various features in different animals. Everything was for the benefit of those animals. We have 22 definitions on Aramaic words, and finally we discussed that the shemen for Yitzhak Shabbos is Kedei Lasach Ever Katan. Either Katan has 2 meanings, the Ever and the person, or only contains 1 meaning, either the Ever or the person.